Back working on the BMW 130i, and we're going to be giving this thing an automatic transmission service today. Before we get into things though, do me a massive favour, give this video a like. It really does help me out and it shows your appreciation. Now then, let me show you the kit that I'm going to be using today. I got this from gearboxoils.com. I'll leave a link down in the description box below if you want to get yourself a kit of your own. Now I just want to state this car has the 6-speed GM transmission. Yes, it has a General Motors transmission, and it's a decent transmission, but it is worth noting that there are two. You could have the General Motors transmission or the ZF transmission. I just want to state as well, my car is on 98,000 miles and there is zero issues with the transmission. I'm purely doing this from a preventative maintenance point of view. I have no idea if it has had a transmission service in its life, but as it's coming up to 100,000 miles, it's well worth doing one. Now let me show you exactly what we have in the kit then. So we have 8 quarts of automatic transmission fluid. This is the correct spec stuff for this transmission. We have a transmission fluid filter that comes with the new seal in there as well. We have a new gasket for our pan, and then Gearbox Oils have sent out some goodies. A couple of pens, a leaflet in there as well, maybe has some instructions on, and some sweeties. Can't complain at that, can we? Right then, so first thing is first, before you attempt to do a transmission service, you want to be sure that you can get your car up in the air, but get it perfectly level. And when I say level, I don't mean the transmission pan needs to be level, because it won't be, just due to the nature of the pan on the transmission. It just won't be level when the car is level. So the easiest way to determine if your car is level is by the jacking points on the sill. So let me just remove this jack stand out of the way. Obviously have it supported on the rear with a trolley jack, and then obviously at the front with some ramps. But if you put a spirit level on the jack pads, you should see that bubble is right in the middle, just where we want it. Now it's important that your car is level when it comes to refilling the transmission. Basically, you will refill it, then you get the transmission up to operating temperature between 30 and 50 degrees Celsius, and then you will refill it again, and then once it starts coming out of that fill port, that's when you know you are up to level. So that's why it's important to make sure your car is dead level. Okay then, so first thing I'm going to do is just remove the under tray that covers the transmission. It's not this very front one here, it's just that second one there. It's just held in by a bunch of 8mm head screws. So I'll get all those removed. So with that under tray removed, like I said, just those small 8mm head screws holding it in place, we can now access the transmission. Now, good practice to always make sure you can remove the fill plug first, which is just that one there. It's just a 17mm bolt. It shouldn't be very tight, to be honest. Once that is cracked loose though, we can then remove the 5mm Allen bolt that is the drain plug. Here it goes. You know what? On first inspection, that doesn't actually look that bad. It probably looks quite dark on the camera, but it's just the lighting. You can actually see some colour in that. It looks very red actually. I would say this has had a service at some point. Also worth noting, there was no leaks at all on this transmission, which of course is a good thing. It means you're keeping the correct amount of oil in the thing. Yeah, maybe you can see a little bit better there. Yeah, the fluid itself looks quite clean, doesn't it? Always worth doing it though, especially, like I said, as it's approaching 100,000 miles. It's definitely worth giving it a good service. I'm just going to let that finish dripping out, and then I can get the pan itself removed. I'm going to guess there's another litre or two just in the pan, so I need to be a bit careful when lowering it down. So what I've done now is remove all but 2 of the 10mm head bolts that hold the pan in place. I've left the 2 at that end half in place, so I should now in theory be able to lever this pan down if I give it a bit of a pry and a bit of a tap, and I'm hoping the fluid should drain through the drain hole and I don't end up with a huge mess all over the floor. Oh, didn't expect the pan to drop down so far, but yeah, I've kind of caught all the oil. Again, just going to let that drain for, well, until it stops dripping really, and I'll get the pan fully removed. Right, so pan itself removed, and yeah, like I said, this fluid in here looks very, very clean. Obviously you check the magnet and there's going to be the odd bit of you know, shavings on there. That's completely normal as long as there's no huge chunks on there, which is not. No, it's very normal to find the it's like dust really. That's completely normal as long as there's no big chunks. It's absolutely fine. Yeah, this is, I'm fairly sure this has been serviced before, because it would at nearly 100,000 miles it would be a lot darker than this, the fluid. Need to work on getting this filter removed now. Then I'm going to need 2 hands for this. So as you can see, original filter removed. However, the seal that goes on the end is still stuck up inside of the transmission. I need to find a way to remove that. I'm just going to let all of the dripping stop first, otherwise I'm just going to get covered in ATF. Well, to let that drip away, may as well get the filter pan and the magnet all cleaned up. So, seal is well and truly stuck up there. I'm going to have to get a chisel and try just create a little groove in it. I should be able to pry it out then. Obviously be very careful removing the original seal. You don't want to mar up the casting, because then, well, chances are it's not going to seal properly then. So just take your time, get that seal removed. And I hope you can appreciate that very difficult to film things at the moment, but a lot easier to film if I had a lift, which should be coming soon. But yeah, still getting it done nonetheless. Got it removed. Just cut a little slit in it and then managed to just pry it out with the screwdriver then. Right, ready to get the new filter in place. Right then, so going to get the new filter ready for reinstallation. I think what I'm going to do is actually knock the seal in place first though, because it is a very tight fit. I don't think I'm just going to be able to install that on the filter and then push it in place. I'm going to get this in the correct position, then tap it in place with a suitable size socket, obviously making sure I only make contact with this steel outer ring, not crushing the rubber part of it. So yeah, I'll get this in place first and I should be able to push the filter up into position then. This should work. 22mm socket, fits perfectly on this seal, so I'll give this a good tap into place. And after tapping the new seal into place, that's how it's looking, nice and flush. Yeah, you're definitely going to want to tap that into place, because there's no way you're just going to be able to push that into place on the end of the filter. And that's the new filter now in place. Yeah, just pushed in nice and easy. You'll know when it's seated all the way, you won't be able to go any further. But we should now be ready to get the pan reinstalled with new gasket. Okay, so as you can see, pan all now nice and clean. I've also cleaned the magnet back up as well, reinstalled that. I've just placed the gasket in position. There's kind of these small dowels on the gasket which kind of sit into the pan, so you can't get the gasket on the wrong way. It'll only fit in one way. You'll see all the bolt holes line up. But yeah, it's just going to be a case of holding this into position, getting a few bolts in, and then working my way, tightening down all of the bolts. So let's do that now. There we are, that's the pan now back into position. I'm just going to torque down all of the 10mm bolts down to 10 Newton meters or 7 foot-pounds. Now that all of the pan bolts are torqued down, I'm also going to torque down the drain plug as well to 13 Newton meters or 10 foot-pounds. There we are. Then we can remove the fill plug and get ready to start filling this thing up with fresh fluid. Now then, when it comes to the refilling of the transmission, I've found the best thing to use is one of these pressure sprayers that typically used for a garden or for spraying a driveway with some weed killer or whatever. Now hear me out. Like I said, I've tried loads of different methods. You can get those pumps where you suck up, say, 500 millilitres at a time, you squirt it in. But when it comes to filling up a transmission, you have to be pretty quick, especially when it comes to the second stage of the refilling process. So essentially what you'll do is you'll fill it when the engine and the transmission is cold. You'll just fill it until it runs out of the fill plug, obviously with the car level. You'll then put the fill plug back in, you'll fire the engine up, and then you'll go through the gears on the transmission. And then once the transmission reaches between 30 and 50 degrees Celsius, that's when you then have to remove the fill plug and put the rest of the fluid in. Now it doesn't take long for it to go over temperature, so that's why you have to be quick. And if you can get all of the fluid in one container, you pretty much just have to pump away, and then you hold down the trigger on the sprayer and then it's all going to go in. Okay, so have the pressure sprayer fully pumped up. I'm just going to insert the nozzle into the fill hole now, and then we should just be able to squeeze away. And watch the fluid drop. I'm going to guess we should get about 3 to 4 litres in on this first go. But once it starts to trickle out of the fill plug, we'll obviously stop, install the fill plug itself, and then we'll get the engine fired up. So much easier doing it this way compared to, oh, do we have a drip? I think we do. So we'll let go of that. Pull that out. Just confirm. Yeah, it's definitely at the top there now. So reinstall the fill plug. There we are. And that was right in around 3 litres, to be honest. Now then, as you can see, just brought up the temperature of the transmission, and it's already at 27 degrees Celsius. Bear in mind this engine hasn't been started for, I don't know, a week or so, and yeah, we're already pretty much at the threshold when we need to begin filling. So we're not going to have long at all before it goes over the 50 degrees. Once it goes over the 50 degrees, you have to stop, let the engine and the transmission fluid temperature cool down, and then basically do the same again. So I'm going to try and do it in one take. I apologize if I don't get to record everything, but you've seen me refilling the transmission, you should know the score by now. But essentially what I'm going to do is fire the engine up and then go through the gears. So, you know, I'm going to go from drive, hold that for a few seconds, into reverse, hold that for a few seconds, and I'm going to put it into manual and then go through the gears as best I can. Obviously it's not going to let you go all the way up to 6th gear, but essentially what we're doing is trying to get the fluid moving all around the transmission, get it to everywhere it needs to be, and essentially all the fluid that is in the pan at the moment will be sucked up, like I said, gone to everywhere where it needs to be, creating a space for us to add some more fresh fluid in. So the engine is now fired up. Funnily enough, the temperature of the transmission fluid has actually now dropped down to 16 degrees, which is interesting. I imagine that will probably climb quite rapidly though. It's not a cold day today at all. Like I said, I'm just going to now row through the gears, go into drive, and hold my foot on the brake, hold that for a few seconds, into neutral, reverse. Now I'm going to knock it over into manual, M1, M2, back into drive, back into neutral, reverse, and then back into park, and then we'll just leave it running and we'll get ready for when that temperature reaches 30 degrees Celsius, so we can begin filling up the gearbox to the max mark. Okay, so temperature now showing 27 degrees, so we are getting pretty close now. It's raising a lot slower than what I had initially imagined. I think once there's some temperature in the exhaust, which, no, I'm not going to touch it, but I imagine it's still pretty cold at the moment because obviously the engine's just idling. But once there's some temperature in that, it'll probably transfer over into that transmission. But yeah, we're basically there now. It's on 28 degrees now, so I'm just going to take the fill plug out and begin refilling, and that temperature will just continue to climb in between that 30 to 50 degrees Celsius range. Yeah, we're at 30 degrees, so it's far away. There you go, temperature is climbing nicely and the fluid is going down nicely. Just less than 2 litres to go, and then that's all the fluid we've got. Don't imagine it'll take quite all of it, but it could do because I did let it drain for a good long time. Oh, I think we have a drip. Just confirm. Take this out and put it back in. Temperature is at 34 degrees. So yeah, that's now full. Let's put the fill plug back in. This is how much fluid we have left. What's that, about half a litre probably, and the temperature is at 35 degrees. Yeah, it definitely helps having one of these, basically having it automatically fill for you. If you're having to use one of those manual pumps where you only get like half a litre in at a time, you find yourself scrambling, you know, you have to open new bottles, you know, fill up that pump, and it's just so much hassle. These are honestly a lifesaver. Right, you can just switch the engine off now then, and that should now be the transmission filled. Just get the fill plug torqued down. I've just torqued that down to 14 foot-pounds or 18 Newton meters. And with that now done, just going to give things a bit of a clean up under here, just so I can detect if there's any future leaks, just get rid of any of those drips. And then the under tray can go back on, and then we can get the car back on the ground and we can take this thing for a test drive. Okay then, so car obviously back on the ground now. I've actually taken it for a little bit of a drive, and yeah, it seems to shift absolutely fine. There was no issues with the transmission before anyway. Like I said, it's only on 98,000 miles, and that fluid looked very, very clean when I drained it, so I didn't expect there to be any issues. But it's always worth doing a transmission service before you have issues. Chances are, you know, by the time your shifts start to be very jerky and you notice them slipping, chances are it's too late at that point. You can't just swap out the fluid. Sometimes you get lucky, but most of the time it is too late, and you're going to have to start replacing clutch packs and things like that. But yeah, if you do a transmission service every, I mean, you probably could go as high as 100,000 miles. You know, the fact that this is probably the original filter and fluid in this car, and it's done almost that, and it's absolutely fine, then it probably does prove that you could go 100,000 miles. But me personally, I would do it every 60 to 80,000 miles. I wouldn't wait that long. But yeah, well worth doing it. It's just going to prolong the life of your transmission for sure. And that's pretty much everything done on this car now. We've given it a good full service, done all the filters, gave it an oil change, all the rest of it, brake fluid, full transmission service. So yeah, the car is well and truly sorted. It, like I said before, it just desperately needs a good clean now, both inside and outside, and then this BMW 130i will officially be finished and it can go up for sale. But yeah, hopefully you all have enjoyed this video. Anyway, like I said, if you do want to check out Gearbox oils, there will be some links down in the description box below. Maybe you want to get yourself one of these kits for this 6L45, this GM 6L45 transmission. I believe that's what's in this car. If you want to get yourself a kit for this car, then like I said, check out that link in the description box below. But yeah, I want to thank you all for watching. Remember to give this video a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so. I will see you all in that next one.